Now, let's look at how quickly you turn the bike and how that affects your cornering. How quickly do you need to turn? Not very quick in this situation. It would be silly to quick flick the bike when you don't need to. Here's the perfect flick rate. Being able to get a quick, clean flick has many advantages. How does the rate you flick the bike affect your line in any series of corners, like these S's? This rider's turn rate was too slow to get him on line to set up for the next corner. This rider makes the same approach, starts his turn at the same place and is running the same speed and with a quicker flick. His setup for the next turn is a perfect line and it will work exactly the same way for you.
Once you begin your turn, where do the cornering forces start to push you?
Outside or wide in the turn.
Exactly. If this is your intended line, and you're lazy bringing the bike over, where will you go?
Outside or wide in the turn.
So, if you flick the bike a little quicker, would it get on that line?
Yes!
Class, you are brilliant today.
Since we don't like to run wide in turns, and for a very good reason in situations like this one, we must continue to lean the bike further and further to make the corner. Lazy steering forces you to lean the bike more than is necessary, and you'll be leaned over longer. Let's compare. The quicker flick brings the bike onto the desired line. No extra lean needed. Look how much space he has on the outside of the turn. That would come in handy on the street, in an emergency, or on the track for speed. And look at the difference in acceleration.
What are the immediate benefits of getting the bike turned quicker?
More control.
Yes, that's true. But why do we have more control and confidence?
Earlier in the gas, better throttle control.
And better traction. It's not leaned over as long.
More choices on your lines. You get on your line earlier. Less lean angle.
I think you've got it.
Are they even in school? Maybe that's a version of homeschooling, huh?
I wish my mom had taken me to the track when I was 10. I'd be a world champion now.
Yeah, you're right.
The approach speed and turning point for both riders was very similar. So what was the key difference that got this one through and put this one in the dirt? Let's look again. At this lazy steering rate, even if he leaned it over further, the results would have been the same, or worse. The simple solution is flicking the bike quick enough to make the line. Now, what will happen when they increase their turn entry speed? His results would just get worse. With a higher entry speed than before, this rider still makes his line. It's quite simple. In turns like this, as the speed increases, so must your flick rate.
The route to confidence with turn entry speed is nothing more or less than faith in your own ability to get the bike turned quick enough.
Okay, we want to be able to turn the bike as quickly as possible for lots of reasons. like accident avoidance, to not run wide in turns or off the road, avoiding being late on the gas and adding excess lean angle. Not to mention, you'll get a better drive. How do we make this possible? How do you become efficient with your steering? What works and what doesn't work? The plane of rotation of the bars looks like this. At a steep angle like this, half your input into the bars goes straight down and is a total waste of energy. At this angle, you're still only 75% efficient. Here, your input is in line with bar rotation and is 100% efficient. This is another great example of how understanding the technology puts you in full control. A simple experiment will tell you if what I say is true or not. Get forward on the bike and position yourself directly over the bars and try to push the bike down into a lean. A lot of effort, but not much happens. All motorcycles work this same way. It's the horizontal rotation of the bars that gets the job done. A huge part of rider confidence is knowing you can quickly turn when you want to or need to. It's not about the kind of bike you ride, it's all about control. Some say flicking the bike too quickly is dangerous or makes the bike unstable, but done correctly, it is clean, smooth and efficient.
Any questions about flicking your bike?
When can't you lean the bike over quickly?
Okay, let's figure it out. Could you quick flick your bike if the pavement were wet or slippery?
No!
Could you quick flick on a cold tire or cold pavement?
No!
Could you quick flick with a handful of front brake?
No!
Could you quick flick with a tire that was brand new or not scrubbed in?
No!
You, could you quick flick with totally worn out tires?
No!
Do you need to quick flick your bike at low speeds?
No!
Now, do you get the idea?
Yes!
Our two new riders have come a long way towards understanding how the bike steers and where to turn it. Their confidence to lean the bike more is a direct result of that. Riders who understand this both look and feel in control of their bikes.
It's amazing. Once you understand the actual technology steering the bike, it totally changes your riding.
Yeah, completely changed. I feel in control of steering the bike now. I know how quick to turn it. I know when and where I need to lean it. It's like I'm seeing the turns completely different now. My SRs are way quieter.
It's so simple.
Yeah, once you understand it.
In double apex turns like this one, things can sometimes feel a little busy. Trying to maintain a continuous throttle roll-on only runs you wide, because it's really two turns. But the rider has more choices. Just roll the gas on a little bit and hold it there. Not horrible, but not really stable either. Get on the gas and then off to turn it for the second part of the turn, then back to the gas. But that only chops it up, doesn't it? He could go in hard and brake a bit, then on the gas again. That could work, but you'd better be super smooth. Okay, how do we do it? Timing is critical. Getting back into the throttle early stabilises the bike. Then, mid-corner, instead of rolling it off, he just stops rolling on. Here is where your body position comes into play in a big way. When you stop your roll-on, some weight transfers forward. If you are low and to the inside of the bike, it hooks around, tightening the bike's turning radius. That helps to get it pointed toward the exit without upsetting the bike. Look at how much earlier this rider is getting into his down and to the inside body position. Here we see an average hang-off position. Here's a more aggressive body position. Notice he's able to hold a tighter line.
Now that's the hook turn technique and can work in almost any cornering situation.
On the road, this technique can be used quite effectively if you find yourself running wide in a turn. Dropping to the inside and down position, plus a smooth roll-off or momentary hesitation, not a chop-off of the gas, tends to tighten the turn for you. And don't forget to look where you want to go. That's way better than the alternative. Here is a technique that can aid you greatly in your efforts to steer your bike accurately. We quite naturally push off or pivot from our trailing foot to produce maximum power and control. With that in mind, using the left leg to generate the power to press on the right bar and vice versa is a logical step. It provides the rider with maximum stability on the bike. Stability equals control and strength. As we lock our lower leg into the bike from the foot peg to the tank, we begin to create lower body stability. The next step is a slight tightening of the thigh muscles. This locks the pelvis in position, which then provides a stable base for the whole torso. With the torso stable, the rider's ability to apply pressure to the bars is vastly improved. We call this pivot steering. You might call it power steering, because once you master it, it feels so easy to steer the bike. Work on your quick turn. It pays huge dividends in control and confidence in any situation on any bike.
Now that we know what a turn point is all about, how often do you get it just right? Is it usually too early or too late?
Too early.
That's right. Riders tend to turn in too early, and there is a reason for it. Would you like to know how to change this part of your riding?
Yeah!
Going where we look is an unfortunate survival reaction. In fact, it's SR number 5.
For example, if this rider looks at the inside of his next turn, he will go there. Once our attention becomes fixed on something, we steer towards it. In common parlance, it's called target fixation, and that's what causes riders to take too early an entry into corners, or run wide, like this. We already know what the results of turning in too early are. Training yourself to look in without turning in is how we overcome this SR. We call it the two-step technique. It's also the key to finding a line that doesn't take you in too early, even on unfamiliar roads. Your first step is to estimate a turning point on the road ahead. You don't know the road, so you're just establishing a temporary reference point. Step 2 is find your mid-corner position. Where you clip the inside of the turn is your apex. The trick here is looking in to find it without turning the bike in at the same time. Now he looks in, but notice how he is staying wide in the corner. Now, would you be able to see a line from this position? No. Keep looking, but don't turn yet. How about from here? Not yet, but it's getting better. Okay, now you can see your apex clearly. That's exactly where your turn-in point should be. Nothing provides more confidence than knowing you're on a good line, and it does wonders for your throttle control.
Hey, you're really starting to get that bike turned.
Yeah, I just wish I was more consistent with my lines. I'm feeling kind of lost.
Well, you know there's 4 chapters in here about vision. There's a technique in one of them. It's called the two-step that's supposed to help. Two-step.
Let's take a look and see if we can sort out his inconsistent lines. He ran pretty wide on that pass. Let's see how he is timing his look in and turn in. Big mistake. He's looking and turning. Now he's not running as wide, but it's another different line. The two-step visual technique solves more than just where to turn into a corner. It can also help with your consistency. In the end, your lines will only be as accurate and consistent as your visual skills. Knowing exactly where you want the bike to go before entering, using the two-step technique handles that. Applying the two-step technique allows the rider to gain space and time at the entry of the turn, to apex and pick up his next turn point accurately. Once you truly learn to lead with your head and eyes, you'll be able to enter all corners smoother, more accurately, and, for track riding, usually faster. It's as good as it gets. Using the two-step turn entry technique also helps combat the look-in, go-in early SRs. By training yourself in this technique, you'll always be 2 visual steps ahead in every turn entrance.
Wow, what a great technique. I don't feel rushed to the turn point. I mean, at all.
No, me neither. Hey, that two-step works.
Hard braking can be both confusing and terrifying. No other control action on the bike can produce such dramatic results with so little effort. Most riders' survival reactions run wild under heavy braking. Brake technology has come a long way. These improvements give riders far more choices on how to brake. But the laws of physics still govern how hard we can use them. Brakes, just like the throttle, are lean angle sensitive. The more lean angle you use, the less you can use either of them. This brings up all kinds of questions about technique. Should I do all my braking straight up? Or should I trail the brakes into the turn? Should I brake easy at first and hard at the end, or the other way round? How about easy, then hard, and then easy again? While braking, it's easy to lose sight of the real goal. Getting your turn entry speed perfect is that goal. With that in mind, which brake pressure sequence is best? Turn entry speed errors are easiest to make when you are hard on the brakes towards the end of braking. In the fine art of braking, gradually trailing the brake off is the way to accurately find your entry speed. Straight up or trail braking, it's the exact same problem. Maintain control of your entry speed. Overbraking, SR number 7, often creates other problems like poor throttle control and extra steering corrections. Both unsettle the bike and can even cause excess wheel spin. Panic braking in the middle of turns is something we try to avoid because it stands the bike up abruptly. Unconsciously, we apply pressure to the bars to maintain our line. That additional input is one of the primary reasons for trail braking crashes. Restraining bar flutter does not let the front end follow the road, which reduces available traction even more. Despite its dangers and drawbacks, trail braking is a useful tool. Just imagine yourself leaning into a turn at 200 miles an hour with the brakes on like this. If you have to brake in a turn because of an emergency, like debris or a surprise decreasing radius, bringing the bike up as you do it is your best hope for not washing out the front end. Simultaneous braking and downshifting smooths things out and reduces distractions. This helps you get your turn entry speed right. Watch the timing of the clutch and throttle action in slow motion. Slipper clutches seem to make this unnecessary, and modern electronics will probably make it an obsolete technique someday. Too bad. It's quite fun when you get it right the old-fashioned way. Riders come up with all sorts of strange variations to solve braking and downshifting. He's downshifting first and braking later. That's unnecessary engine abuse. Use the brake first. Pads are cheap, engines are expensive. Some just downshift and don't bother to use the brakes at all. In some situations, when brakes aren't needed, that's okay. But again, pads are cheap. Letting the clutch out slowly seems to solve it for some riders, but that's just extra wear and tear on the clutch and drivetrain. Here, he's revving the motor, but the clutch release is so slow he loses all the revs from his throttle blip. Many riders use this sloppy method of downshifting. no revs at all, and a slow release of the clutch. Getting too big a throttle blip over-revs the motor and causes the bike to surge forward with each gear change. Another common error is over-revving and varying the brake lever pressure from the exaggerated wrist movement. This is choppy and causes the bike to pogo. Too early downshifting uses the engine as a brake and over-revs it. Not revving the bike between shifts and inconsistent brake pressure pogos the bike up and down. Here he's shifting and easing out the clutch slowly. That takes time and attention. He's revving it, but too high and still on and off the brake lever, pogoing the bike. Making clean downshifts and maintaining control of the brake lever throughout will help. Letting your fingers slide over the brake lever while you control the pressure works really well. Downshifting without the clutch is another way of handling it. Careful timing of the throttle blip and the gear lever makes it surprisingly easy and smooth, with or without a slipper clutch. It may take some practice to make them perfectly smooth.
Hey, you guys were looking pretty good out there in the corners.
Thanks. You know, we learned a lot from your book.
That's great. I'm really glad to hear that. I did notice one thing, though. How do you guys feel about your braking and downshifting? I see. So, clutch in, gas on and off, clutch in, gas on and off, clutch out, clutch in, gas on and off, clutch out, you got it. Clutch in, gas on and off, clutch out. Just a little coordination point, it's really all it is.
I can't believe how distracting that used to be.
Oh, absolutely. And even after I improved my visual skills, I was still feeling rushed at the turn entries.
Well, you know, I guess this is a pretty good example of how little coaching can really help.
Oh, man.
Traction is the obvious limiting factor on our speed and direction changes. We've explored how throttle control, rider input and surface problems can affect traction. But let's take a closer look. A new rider's perception of traction is a little sketchy. As we gain more experience with traction, our perception improves. There are some classical approaches to understanding traction used by average riders and pros alike. They can give riders a new perspective on tyre grip. It's a classic route to understanding traction. Here's Keith's solution to understanding traction. He calls it the lean and slide bike. About this time, most riders would chop the gas in panic. It takes a lot more to lose traction than most riders think, but there are situations you should be aware of.
Of course, if the tire was new and not yet scrubbed in, or too old, too cold, tire pressure was wrong, over or under inflated, if you were riding on a slippery surface or a polished surface, leaning the bike over too far, other mechanical problems, it would slide.
The slide bike helps train riders to avoid slide errors. Watch what happens when he chops the gas. As we've already seen, when rolled off, not chopped, it is far less violent.
Overriding the grip of new or cold tires is a classic novice riding error. Even at relatively modest lean angles and speed, a cool tire on a cool day can surprise you when you first go out. It doesn't take much to slide. Tire grip and temperature are proportional. A cold tire feels like it has maybe 25% its normal grip. A warm tire on a warm day feels more like 75% or more right away. Don't be a fool. Gradually bring the speed and the temperature up. Never trust the tires. Trust yourself. Learn to bring them up to temperature according to conditions.
In generally good conditions, as we have here, modern tyres deliver excellent traction. Good throttle control is the foundation that allows a rider to explore the limits of traction. Even with good throttle control, a small slide can start or get out of hand when the rider is tense. The rider's ability to be comfortable with traction limits depends upon having the key elements of throttle control, rider input and visual skill. Two other aspects of traction are important to understand. The more lean angle you use, the less side grip you have. The solution? Even when the rear tyre is totally lit up, bringing the bike up into the slide helps the rider maintain control. The lean and slide bike is one of the training methods used at Keith's school to help riders gain that confidence and experience with traction. All 7 factors, visual skills, steering, turn points, line, rider input, lean angle and picking up the bike must be under the rider's control for him to be confident with the throttle and with traction. New technology is great, but even with traction control and modern electronics, the rider has to work his way up to using it. Being in control of these 7 factors is the quickest and easiest route to confidence.
I'm so stoked. This twist tube book really helped my riding out.
Totally. Feels like I'm making improvements every ride I take. It's as if there's no limits. You know, I see more ways to apply this information every time I read this.
Look how good we could actually get.
Oh, hey, Will. How you doing?
Hey,
You both look pretty good out there.
thanks.
Yeah, but after watching you ride, you know, it just makes us want to kick it up a notch. So how'd you do it?
I went to school.
School?
Let me ask you something. What do you do for a living?
Well, I'm a doctor.
I'm a software engineer. Why?
Well, did you wake up one day just knowing how to do your trade? Or did you learn it by going to school?
Okay, point taken. So, how do I find a school?
Is this where you went?
That is where I went. California Superbike School.
Really?
Best training you'll ever get.
See, Will.
You guys must really push it hard.
How do you ride that thing to the edge?
I've learned a few things over the years. You got any advice for us? Advice? There's a lot of advice out there, guys. Why don't you get the real tech on riding?
We'll lend you this copy of the Cornering Bible. We'll be here next weekend. You can give it to us then.
Twist the wrist, too.
Wow, thanks a lot, guys.
No problem.
Looks like I have to get myself another copy.